Hello and welcome to another episode of Invalid Entry. My name is James Taylor and it's the daytime. The daytime today because I have no internet. I've turned my Wi-Fi off because I have just enough network connectivity to confuse programs that think they have network and then they die. But the reality is the entire estate has been out of internet now for about an hour. And I've got nothing else to do. I've done all my work, done all my emails I can do. My 3G is absolutely terrible here, so I thought I'd get this video out of the way. Because it's either that or read a book at this point, I'm afraid. As the bells of everything being online is on my work, and everything's in conference stuff. So anyway, it's time to deal with this thing. Put the snow on this, and I'm going to do a bad job of this to begin with. I thought about how I do it, and I know what's going to happen. So I'm going to make the snow drift down. It's going to collect on the different layers, and it's going to interact with the layers. Actually, going to build up the snow on the top. Now, if you notice this background there going across here, the trees, I really would like the snow to come underneath, but it's not going to. It's going to be very much on top. I'm going to do a very poor man's edge detection of this, and I'm going to do it real time. Now, what's interesting is I'm going to interact with the parallax class. I'm actually going to build the snow into the class so that the snow, it can know where the layers are and knows how to draw it on. So I thought through this in my head how I'm going to do it. I've also, I'm going to stop this now. I've also got a copy of my snowflake code from the other day. Give it that error message before I can't find the Python interpreter. And we're going to just basically patch that into this code. So the first thing I'm going to do, and this is the problem with some of the class-based stuff, if you don't have good relationships between the classes, they don't necessarily know how to interact. So if I built a snowflake class, if I was bring it in, it wouldn't necessarily know how to interact with the layer underneath, because unless that class is inside of, or effectively not a subclass, but inside of it in terms of the data structure, it wouldn't necessarily know how to interact with those things. So in here, what I'm going to do is I've taken out the ugly moon, by the way. I've just taken a few comments out here. There's been no change since last time. I will commit this to the GitHub and put a link below. But what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to actually define a new thing in here called snow data, where we're going to store basic information about the snow. So number of flakes. Actually, I'm going to call it snow config. That's probably about it. So def init, just to get some default values in. Self.number of flakes equals, let's put 10 flakes in by default. Flake size equals none, so equals 1 pixel, so just get that in there to begin with as well. Flake color equals none, spelled the American way, and again self.flake color. If this was proper programming, I'd put some comments on that so I actually want here. I'm going to make that 255, 255, 255, 255. In fact, I'm going to make that another 255 there. Give it some alpha. That may come into play, by the way, just so you know. Right, and that's it. Snow, that's cool. So in here, I'm actually going to take a snow config equals none. So it's an optional argument, and if it's not passed in, it will be none. And here, we're going to basically have a few more variables here, which is going to be an array. So this thing's going to be snow baseline equals none, and snow height equals none. So self.snow baseline equals an array, and self.snow height equals an array. What we're going to do is if in fact, we're going to store the config as well, and I'm going to put underscores in there, which I'll be able to just broke the thing. Snow config equals none. Put some underscores in there, so they're all privates. Okay, so if snow config self.snow config equals snow config, and then they're going to be set as well. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to work out that baseline. So if the snow config is set, if it's not set, we're not going to do any of this work. But if that's set, we're going to work out the baselines. So what we're going to do is we're going to loop over the arrays. So for I in range self dot width, because I've stored that there as a thing. What we're going to do is we're going to basically work out the height now. So for see, I haven't actually done this program. I've just done it in my head. Height equals naught. The top pixel I'm going to assume is transparent. So transparency equals. Now this is where not having the internet is really, not great. There is a function which is basically get pixel. But I believe I can access a pixel by doing self.asset and then just accessing it like an array. So I access it as a 2D array. What we're going to do here is we're going to print off self.asset, because I'm in my head confusing pill, where pill you have a draw, you can make an image object, you make a draw object, you can access it like a 2D array. So I'm just going to do a dir of that really quickly. In here, we're not going to do it on the sky because I don't want the stars to build up with snow, but we are going to do it here. So basically, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a bg snow config equals snow config, and then I'm just going to defaults, but I'm going to pass that into my my foreground there. No, I'm going to pass it into my middle decor. I've decided. Snow config is not defined because I haven't imported it. So from background, there we go, and straight away we get that printed off. Print off a couple of things which I'm not sure it should have done. Did I? If snow config. Not sure I should have got that many things printed. Oh, I put in a loop. I printed it off like 500 times. So here what we want is just look into here, is there get at? Get at looks like the function I'll probably want. I'm just seeing if there's a get pixel. So get at, I bet that takes a coordinate. So color equals get at self.asset.get at, and here's where my thing comes in. So it actually takes a sequence, we want, but I'm going to pass in an XY coordinate of across first, so I, naught, and that should give me a 3D color. So if I do print color there, that should give me a nice bunch of colors. And you see the last one is 0, which is what I expect it to be, so to be transparent. So what we're going to do is we're going to store that fourth value, which is the third index, so 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that is my transparency for while j equals naught, while j is less than self.asset.get height and found equals false, found equals false. So what I'm going to do here now is say color sample equals self.asset.get at, and we're going to do ij. So we're going to basically look down the pixels, okay? And we're also going to look at the third value. So I don't really care if the other colours change in the background, which they might be. So the person who made the art may have put colours in the background, put the alpha value to 0. So I don't really care. So sample, if sample equals colour does not equal colour, we say found equals true, which will cause it to bomb out. Okay. And at this point, this is important, because if you have a completely transparent all the way down to the bottom, it means it's basically a hole in the bottom. So we're going to basically say if found. What we're going to do is do self dot snow baseline dot append. At this point, I'm just going to append the j value, and the same here. Or self dot snow height dot append j. Okay, so that's basically going to set the same value to both, so you're going to get basically a 1 pixel, because when I drew the draw line, it will draw it from the same pixel. But not sure if that will actually render anything or not, because if I give it a width, it probably will render a single pixel of snow to begin with. Okay, what we're now going to do is, down here, we are going to actually say, well, instead before blitting, we're actually going to make a new surface. So a new surface I actually have to import from Pygame, like that. So surf equals surface, and it's going to be self dot. It actually takes a width and a height as a tuple, so basically it's self dot asset dot size get size. That should give me a tuple. That should make me a surface of the same size. The reason this is helpful is because it actually lets me now blit onto it. So what I'm going to do is actually blit not the surface dot blit, but the subsurface. I want to drop the asset on twice, like you would normally. Actually, I don't want that. Leave that in. I want to blit on my subsurface, and then the one I want to do here is, before I start, this is the calculation, which basically means there's 2 of them, so I get the parallax effect. Here I want to do subsurface dot blit self dot asset. So it's a bit stupid, basically. Even if I'm doing no snow, I'm going to make another memory object, and I could optimize that out saying only do this if there's snow, otherwise do it the other way. But for the moment I'm going to do it this way because it just keeps my code a little bit cleaner, more maintainable, even though I'm wasting some CPU cycles. I've got plenty to play around with at the moment, so that's kind of like. Now if self dot snow config, what we're now going to do is we're going to actually draw the lines. So we're just sort of drawing the snowdrift bit first. So basically we've got the 2 values. So the snow for snow position in range len self dot width, and basically that we've got the 2 heights already. So we're going to draw. I'm going to copy this in from the other one. We're going to draw on the subsurface a 255, 255, 255. In fact, I'm actually going to use self.snow config flake color, so it matches the snow that's falling. So the further back will be slightly grayer than the ones in the front, is the idea when I configure those. And the 2 positions I want to do, this one is going to be snow position, but the snow height is basically going to be self.snow height brackets snow position. No, snow position, and it's going to go. Put space in there. It's going to go to the same thing, but it's going to go to not snow position dot snow baseline. So that should draw me my snow dusting on the back. Let's see if that works. It's going to go horribly wrong because I put an equals to the double equals. This is my get out of jail loop early. Let's see how scary that is. May have forgotten a blit. No, it looks good. Let's just see the errors. This to me feels like a bit of an infinite loop, because that shouldn't be a len, that should be like that. It feels like it is getting into a bit of a loop up here. So it's looping over that range there. Oh, you know what I didn't do? J plus equals 1. Like that. We'll go do it at the end. Missing argument destination on the self.blit. So here what we do, there, of course we have to pass in 0, 0, even though it should be obvious, I think. So the line, so up here at the top we've got some imports from here. Just check my imports. We also want to have a couple of imports. So I'm just going to import those there. Line and rect. So we're going to want the rect to draw the snowflakes in a second. Okay, so as you can see here, it's going horribly, horribly wrong. which is fantastic. So we're not actually drawing anything on at the moment. The subsurface should be blitting, that should be blitting onto that, that should be drawing the line on the subsurface. So we should end up with the subsurface being blitted onto the content. Now what's interesting is that the foreground worked, this layer worked, but these ones didn't work at all. So it's quite interesting that it's interesting that the other ones which also didn't have the config in. If I take this config out completely, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting that only the very last one that was defined works, which suggests here there is a problem with the snow config. Set the snow config up there, append it there. It's going to this. This should only happen if the snow config is there. So it's not to do with these bits of code, but it suggests that we are doing a mistake somewhere around here. That should all work nicely. That doesn't look too great. What's weird is the very last one defined works, and I suspect if I took out the last one, then this one will magically start working. Well, do you know it magically starts working? I know what the problem is. I know what the problem is. The problem is actually a little bit annoying. And I'm just going to open up another bit of code over here. Basically, the problem is that my surface needs to have an extra. Yeah, here we go. When I define my surface here, I need to pass in an extra argument to say give it 4 colors. Because what's actually happening here is that the front layer is converting all those alphas to blacks. I put that in the wrong bracket. In the parallax class, that should be too many brackets. There we go. Right number of brackets. Yeah, there we go. So you see there's a white dusting of snow on that top layer there, which is really nice, really cool. A bit of a glitch there. That's probably the point, maybe the point where it's. I do want to sort of the flow, and what we can now do is we can now copy that snow config a couple more times. So that's the background. That's going to be the foreground config, and then I'm going to have foreground config 2. I'm going to have the ground, and then ground 2. So we can now pass these into all of these functions in the right places, and we will get a smattering of snow immediately thrown across all the scenes. I'm aware we just hit 20 minutes, but you can see there's now this white outline. You can see there's the white dusting on top of the trees, but there's these barren bits underneath the trees there and there. I'm going to hit stop here because I realised that was an awful lot to process, and this is going to be a 2-part thing. So we haven't got the snow drifting down yet, but fundamentally we have got the same logic as before. We've got a snow smattering coming in, we've got the lines, we've got the height. So when we start building the snow in, what we're going to do is we're going to be starting to affect the snow inside the snow config. I'm going to pause there. This is a 20-minute episode already, so if you want to see more, it will be out tomorrow, I'm afraid. And this is what happens when you dev offline. You need to know things like how to use DAR. You need to know how to use things like the online help, how to use the tooltips. You do also sometimes need to look things up. Like I knew what the issue was. So what gave it away with that issue was that when I commented this layer out, what went through my head and I didn't say it out loud was when I commented this layer out, I suddenly saw the camels. So I knew actually at that point, I realised that this wasn't just breaking these ones. If it was just breaking those ones, the issue would have actually been something to do with a shared variable in memory or something like that. But because it wasn't showing the camels, it meant I knew immediately I was just covering the camels up. So that was all, and it was through the alpha value that it was converting all those black cells to actually black with full opacity, and I had to take that away and say no, these are transparent pixels. Anyway, that's it for today. If you like this, congratulations for making this far through the video. Please hit like, please subscribe, please tell your friends. Thank you very much. And leave a comment and other things. And click one of the buttons.